spill to the front for Curnow. Onto his right boot. Bends it goalward. Blues need it. And Charlie delivers.
McKenzie's got his work cut out. He's capable on the left. Bends it towards goal. Gunston.
The legend becomes immortal.
Hello, I'm Damian Barrett. Welcome to Access All Areas, thanks to Crypto.com. Now, the man sitting next to me, as always, is Matthew Lloyd, and I've never seen you more excited than today, Lloydie. The ilk of yours is back. The big key forward, winning games of football.
They are, Damo, and I didn't enjoy a lot of the games the last couple of years because it's been rolling mauls and it's been contested footy, hard to score. But over the weekend, just in one weekend, Larkey, Mitch Lewis, Jack Gunston, Noah Bolter, Max King, Charlie Curnow, Harry Mackay and Lance Franklin all dominated games. And, mate, I'm back.
Yep.
Footy's back, I'm back.
And a big reason for your buoyancy today is the personal connection you've got with one of those names in Max King. Now, it'd be underselling his talents to say that he had his breakout game yesterday. He's already had a couple of those. But what he did in kicking 3 goals in the space of 2 minutes in the third quarter of this game against Fremantle was potentially season-shaping.
Yeah, they were under the pump during the week after the way they played against Collingwood, where they run off their feet, and they were in trouble at half-time. They were down by a few goals, and Max King hadn't scored a goal, and it's great from a young kid to be able to kick 4 goals after half-time and 3 in a real burst to get the Saints going.
Yep. We move on from the big guy of that team to a smaller guy, and I love this guy, Jack Higgins. This guy flies in the face of convention in 2022. I don't mind a bit of selfishness in a game of footy, Lloyd. Now, I know most people say that's a silly thing to say, but the selfishness attached to him can create some magic. 4 goals came off his boat yesterday.
He's lacked confidence. I saw a guy over the last year or so, he's such a bubbly, vibrant person. He hasn't been that. And for him, he just needed the first one to go through. He kicked that and then he was away. Even the ball starts swinging for you when your confidence goes. So for him to kick 4 goals, 4 tackles, 16 disposals, it was a fantastic return for him.
Look, we all make comments in footy, Lloydie, and it's just an opinion game. But I thought some of the commentary levelled at him last week about needing to be dropped on the back of not handballing on one bit of play in round 1 was just over the top from David King and Nick Riewoldt.
Yeah, Brett Ratton knows best, and we all do make statements from time to time, and we're on the outside, so only those internally know best, Yep.
The Dockers, Lordo, they're interesting. I mean, they pushed for finals last year, missed out. They were meant to be pushing again, and they may still, but they're not going to get there if they keep turning it over the way they did at key points yesterday.
Well, they got lucky against the Adelaide Crows, so that was a 1-point game against the Adelaide Crows, but this was just horrible turnovers, and I think a lot of this would have to do with who has a presence in their forward line that you have confidence kicking to. So I think they were kicking to Frederick, just long bombs. Josh Battle had the game of his life. He was just mopping up everything because there's really no one that concerns you as if you're a St Kilda defender. So Rory Lobb hasn't been the answer. They've tried Jesse Hogan. They've tried Shane Kirsten. They've tried since Matthew Pavlich. They have not had a dominant key forward, and it's an issue, and it's why they'll probably miss the 8 again this year.
So we'll put one line through the conversation around Max King. We'll get to another big guy, North Melbourne's Nick Larkey, in a moment. But before we do, let's have a look at what happened at the Marvel Stadium yesterday when Adam Simpson basically, effectively, Lordo, introduced himself to some players who were playing their debut game of AFL football. Nat Edwards today described it on AFL Daily as like orientation day, and it had that feel about it, didn't it?
Adam Simpson handled himself so well. You know, he said they're Eagles for life, and he made them feel special. And he said, I can't give them a normal game plan. I've just got to give every player a role because we've got guys that have never met each other before and have never been in the Eagles system. So they should be really proud of what they did yesterday.
They should have
put
been
up a great fight,
and they could have been more proud how they got the points. And arguably, Lordo, they could have, maybe even should have. They missed opportunities in that last quarter. You can see the score there. You can see some balls just narrowly missing from players who... Well, to see one from Jack Darling, who would normally kick crucial goals. Yeah,
Liam Ryan should be kicking this goal. That would have put them within 12 points with 11 minutes to go. And they had North nervous. It was all being played in their front half. And I think there was a few fatigued players. They had to probably carry more load. Jack Darling, he didn't do a pre-season, so I think he's doing his pre-season out there. He looked a shell of himself yesterday. Willie Rioli had a great game. He kicked 4 goals. So, they had to take every chance they could get yesterday to win that game.
All right, let's get to the big boy, Nick Larkey. He kicked 6 of North Melbourne's 10 goals. And, again, a bit like King, not at the same levels and may not ever reach the same levels, but has already put together a nice AFL career to this point. And it's just getting a whole lot better and will be a whole lot better.
Because of the club he plays for, I think he does go under the radar. He doesn't get the notoriety of some other players who are playing for bigger clubs, but He's a star, this guy. He had a super season last year. I saw him single-handedly destroy Carlton on Jacob Wiedering last year. So he's taken some big scalps over the last 12 months and was a difference in the game yesterday.
Can you honestly say you thought Noah Bolter was as good as he clearly is and will be?
Well, I'm often critical of taking players away from their strength, and I thought he could be the best centre-half back in the game. And then I hear in the pre-season, oh, he's going to ruck and play forward. And I sometimes say, why mess with something so good? But they've got Gibcus that's come in and playing down back. They've got Robbie Tarrant that's come in playing down back. So throw him.
Look at this kick. It goes into the crowd from 50.
I think his growth is huge too. It's just an untapped talent, and he's only going to get better and better.
Really?
Yeah.
So, okay, after all that, what would you do with him? And obviously, Jack Riewoldt wasn't part of yesterday's mix, nor too were Dustin Martin and Dion Prestia and others. But with regards to that role going forward?
Keep him forward. Yeah, keep him forward. A bit like Aaron Norton. You've got enough coverage down back, play him forward. And rip a win by the Tigers too with what they had out and responding from that poor performance by Carlton.
It was. The spark was required and it was given and delivered as usual by Shea Bolton, who can do some stuff on a footy field auto that others can't. And it's so important to a team that still feels it's got a premiership left in this era.
He's another player who has been a midfielder, but they've sent him back to the forward line, and he's doing all his damage in the front half and kicking goals. And I think with the Prestia, Koch and Martin in the latter part of their career, I think he becomes their best player. Shane Edwards, another one who's just in his last year or so. I think they'll build their club around Bolter and Bolton, and they were the difference in the game yesterday.
Yep. And as we speak, there's no update, and there probably won't be for some time, about Dustin Martin's return to footy. It's the health that's more important, obviously, and there's no one at the Tigers who knows for sure if he actually does come back. The pressure from the Giants, Lordo, it just was lacking, wasn't it? When it had to be executed properly.
When they're good, they're really good, and when they're bad, they can be really, really bad. And that's the frustrating part. They start seasons really poorly. They're chasing their tail yet again, and this forward or lack of forward pressure is just not good enough. You see what Carlton are doing with unheralded, guys like Owies and Durden, and these guys are just cracking in and creating frontal pressure. Well, there just wasn't enough of that. And you see guys like Ralph Smith, who played one of his best games in Tigers colours, they're just running and carrying, and what happens is you get it into one-on-ones, gets out the back, and you run in and kick goals. And real wake-up call for the Giants. They were really poor yesterday, and they play the Suns in a make-or-break game at round 3 this weekend.
It's come early, hasn't it, for the Giants in that context this year. Lotto, the Hawks are doing something pretty special at the moment. I don't know how sustainable it is, and I don't know how far it can take them. But if they continue what they've shown in round 1 against last year's Wooden Spoon in North Melbourne, but more importantly against Port Adelaide, on the weekend just gone, particularly with what they're doing up forward. I mean, the Mitchell-Lewis and Jack Gunston combination is working a treat. Outstanding.
It's been brilliant. I know Sam Mitchell, full credit for him. I thought, how many wins is he going to get? Will it be 6 or less? Time will tell, but that was a destructive performance at Port Adelaide. I want to talk about Josh Ward. They drafted really well. Josh Ward, you'd want to get pick 7 right, but the character of Ward and McDonald, who is also playing extremely good football, they are the ultimate professionals. I think they could have played a little bit of AFL last year with how they carry themselves, how they train, and I think it was a strategic move by Hawthorn to draft as much about character as talent, the type of people that Sam Mitchell wanted in his football club. Both Ward and McDonald could easily captain a football club. Ward captain Melbourne Grammar, McDonald captain Haileybury College. So I think they've got super people in their footy club, and what a turnaround it's been with Gunston as well, who's come back to amazing form.
Yeah, and almost no matter what happens this year, it's just going to be the base, isn't it? The platform for something pretty special in years to come. Well, there's genuine worries about Port Adelaide. I mean, I think you know my views. Round 6 is the starting point to assessing teams in a season context, but 0-2 now. And the worry is that preliminary final loss hasn't been forgotten. They lost again by a similar margin to Hawthorn on the weekend at the same venue.
Well, everyone wants to talk about their defenders and how they're struggling, but Alir's out and Mackenzie's out, so you can't expect a guy like Sam Skinner to come in and do the job that they would do. My big thing is the midfield. So they were beaten up by the Bulldogs midfield, and I ask, there's some young midfielders flying in the game. You've got guys like Isaac Heaney, and we just showed Bolton before, and Bailey Smith. But what's going on with Butters and Rosie? So they're the ones. So you can't expect Travis Boak to keep doing what Travis Boak does, and Wines is a Brownlow medalist. He can't go to another level. So I'm putting it on Boak and Rosie and Butters to find the form that they were drafted for and become pure midfielders and dominate the game.
It's harsh, isn't it, to judge them that way, but they haven't taken the steps that we thought they were going to.
No, they haven't. And I think Rosie may never be a midfielder, but I think it's on Dersma and those guys, Butters, to try and turn things around through a midfield.
Now, 1:10 next Sunday at the MCG. If it's a sunny day, Lordo, I'm thinking there could be a massive crowd. Hawthorn v Carlton. There's an excitement about this that goes back to the 1980s with this rivalry.
Well, you might only need 12 wins to make finals, and then maybe 13, but 3-0 for one of those two teams, it sets you up for a really exciting year.
It does, and we talked about the forward-line combination of the Hawks. The more exciting one is what's going on at Carlton. Mackay and now Curnow playing together. Now, of 129 games when they've been on the same Carlton list, they've only been out there 29 times. This is a relationship that is still embryonic and is untouched by where it could get to.
Curnow plays a bit like Franklin. I think with his mobility and his ability to kick ground-level goals, this Mackay just gets better and better with what he's doing in the game. So I think with Charlie, 5 goals, he's still working through where he's been too because of how much footy he's missed, Damo. So with Harry Mackay and Curnow, they only got 1 goal against Richmond. And yet it was spread. Midfielders kicked goals. On the weekend, they kicked 9 between them. So Michael Voss has his team and Ash Hansen winning in 2 different ways over 2 rounds. So it's really exciting. Their midfield is just ferocious at the moment and overwhelming other teams.
Yep. Some of these clubs we're talking about now, Lordo, are they overtaken the rebuild of the Adelaide Crows? And from what you're seeing, are they a worry? 7 wins last year, yet to greet the judge this year.
I think Matthew Nicks has the least to work with in the competition. He's going to be judged on wins and losses. But you look at this, and this is how you rebuild and win premierships. It's through the draft. And I look at this and you say, who's standing out for you? So Fogarty's been really disappointing. Gallucci, pick 15, didn't make it. Chase Jones, we're not really seeing him. McHenry tries hard, but a smaller player. Fisher Mackesy, not there. Pick 6. Phil Thorpe didn't get a game on the weekend.
We got dropped after round 1, strangely.
So you look at that, Duday and Miller have had a lot of injuries, and Rochelli's like the beacon off 1 game. So that's who you want to rebuild your side around, and yet they're the least talented probably side in the competition.
Yep. Bits to like about what the Gold Coast seems to be doing in 2022. Now, they pushed Melbourne, didn't get the job done, but they could have done with a bit more output from Jack Lukosius, Lordo. What are you witnessing in his evolution as a player? Because it was an elite young talent.
Just here, the lack of urgency. So he had 6 disposals in the game. He did kick 2 goals, but that lack of urgency and then just throwing your hands up in the air, he's had it good for a while playing across half-back where you can just mop up and you can win the ball and get uncontested marks and possessions, like a lot of blokes are doing across half-back. So to see Noah Bolt to go forward and change games, that's a great effort because it's easier to play back than forward. So you look at the draft, and that's where the pressure comes. Pick 2 and 3, Lukosius and Rankin still aren't, getting to the levels of Max King. Look at what Walsh has done. Ben King's been dominant. Bailey Smith has been dominant. Thomas gets better and better. And Nick Blakey, I think he could potentially in the mix for All-Australian this year. That's how well his first 2 games have been. I know it's early, but he looks a star, and the pennies drop for him. So that's where it's Lukosius has got to improve and be better than what he is at the moment.
Essendon embarrassed itself in round 1 against Geelong. It was very gallant against Brisbane Lions on the weekend, but news out of the game, and it emerged and was dropped by the club late last night that Zach Merritt's going to miss considerable time, whether it's 6, whether it's 8, whether it's more weeks than that, with a syndesmosis. Probably their best, their best player last season.
You just know what you get from Zach Merritt. So I look at it now. Dylan Shield will come back into the side. It's time for him to really stand up as a midfielder. Jake Stringer, he's working hard. Caldwell, who they got into the club, he's got to lift his game to a new level. But they just leaked too many goals. So they gave up 6 goals in the second quarter. Bang, 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 bang. Like straight away when they were up by 22 points. Then they leak another 6 goals in the third quarter. So I don't think they'll beat Melbourne, but it's the way they play. And holding their head up high, I wouldn't say they've held their head up high after 2 games of football. Gold Coast lost to Melbourne, but they walk off saying, we were pretty good. That's what Essendon need to do this week. If they can't win it, they need to play much better footy.
You said a moment ago that the Giants had a crunch game coming up. Is this equally for the Dons?
It's just too hard to come back from 0 and 3. So after winning playing finals last year, a lot of pressure on them now.
Well, there's not one moment that defines Buddy Franklin's football career, but the 1,000th goal occasion is one that is part of the overall Buddy story, and it's a part of history. Given he, with that goal going through, became the 6th player to kick 1,000 goals in his career. It won't be done again. The scenes were amazing. I think you know my views on the lack of security that was there when required. Just now that we've all settled it, these images are going to be all time, aren't they?
It was a special night. It was just a pleasure to witness it, really, and say to be able to say you watched Buddy Franklin for his whole 1,000 goals is pretty special. So I didn't get to see all of Lee Matthews. I got to play against Carey, and then I've been to watch Franklin. Special player.
You've done what, actually twice, what Franklin did only once, Lordo. That kick 100 goals in a season, 2000 and 2001. On the second of those occasions, on this moment, kicking your 100th goal in that season, the ring of security that ultimately helped you get off that ground with a reasonable degree of confidence. It was different to what we saw. Yeah,
like it was scary for me the first time. It wasn't that well done. But I just wanted to highlight this, that 21 years on, that was 21 years ago, sorry. It was handled better in 2001 than it was for Buddy in 2022.
Yeah.
So the organisation, they came to me pre-game and said, just to let you know, after 2 or 3, we'll be there, and after 2 or 3 minutes, we'll just surge and get you off the ground. So it's safe for the Richmond players, it's safe for the Essendon players, and it's safe for you. It was really well done compared to what we saw in 2022. It was just a dog's breakfast.
Yeah.
Great scenes, but wasn't very well handled at all.
No, it was just good fortune that nothing very serious happened. The Swans forwards, Lord, we've talked about forwards, we might as well keep talking about forwards, and just the overall Swans team. This is a team that's transitioning out of what it once was very good, but is a challenge to the premiership this year.
I think they're evolving really well. It used to be Franklin, and now they actually don't use him at times when he could be used. I think guys like Warner, Hayward, Heaney, McLean, they're evolving with Buddy in the side, so he's just a piece of the puzzle now. He kicked his 4 goals, didn't have an amazing game, Lance Franklin, but still got his 4 goals. So, I tipped them to be top 4 at the start of the year, and I'm really confident on that, the way they're playing.
And just the way Warner's developing, Campbell, you've touched on Blakey as well, Golden. It's an incredible list of depth, isn't it?
And that's why I thought I've got real concerns for Geelong. The players from 50 to 120 games at Sydney versus the players from 50 to 120 at Geelong. Yeah. There's Parfitt, and that's about it at Geelong versus Sydney. They're absolutely everywhere.
We'll start with the Swans theme as we move to our Brave Play of the Week for Crypto.com. And the focus around this, Lordo, is Paddy McCartan. We've already spoken at great length and in detail about how he's got himself back. It's a great story, but he's playing with courage, isn't he, with the way he's backing himself and his football brain to intercept.
They couldn't get the ball past him in the first quarter. He was best man on the ground, just doing this time and time again. And it's what he's done for the setup. Like Dame Rampy has played to play above his height for so long. Now Tom McCartan and Paddy McCartan take the 2 big monsters, and Rampy just lays off and does what he needs to do. So a great pickup, and hopefully he can get through with no more concussions.
The Thursday night games have been great this season. We get another one on this coming one, Swans versus Dogs.
Huge game. I'm concerned about the Dogs. I think it's Norton and no other real number 2 for him. And also in defence, I think they're being monsters. Keith hasn't stood up that well. Cordy, Gardner. So, I'll be tipping the Swans in that one. Yeah.
On exposed form, it's the Swans easily. Lordo, thanks as always for your time on Access All Errors, and we'll be back to wrap up round 3 this time next week.